What's up, fungal associates? Welcome to Completely Arbortrary. It is the podcast about trees and other related topics. I am one of your hosts. My name is Alex Crowson. And of course, over there on the big green couch,
hi, everyone.
Mr. Casey Clapp.
It's me, Alex. I'm here. I'm sitting on this big green couch. Now, I just want to... You call this green? This couch is blue.
Oh,
I mean, it's white.
We've got a gold, white, black dress situation here. Remember that whole thing?
Yeah, I do. It's still in my closet.
That is so funny.
What if I was the person who had that dress? That was my
amazing.
dress. I'm like, well, it's actually my photo.
And it was like guerrilla marketing for your new line of dresses.
Yeah, exactly. Which, no one could agree on how good it was, so I decided not to go forward with that.
Sure, yeah.
Instead, I just made a bunch of cone stickers. Great
That would be incredible if I found out you were the center of one of the internet's most long-running memes.
Yeah, or like biggest controversy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I would like that.
Well, Casey, we live in a new, the same world, like as you said.
We did. We specifically talked about that.
That we went to sleep in. Some things have changed. I don't know if we want to dwell on them, but
no, yeah, but everyone. So if you listened, last week?
Yeah,
that was the Thursday after the Wednesday after the Tuesday.
Yeah, the Tuesday.
Yeah,
that's right.
Where we now have Donald Trump on our docket again for the next 4 years.
Yep, he's back.
Exactly. But for those of you who are unfamiliar, we don't record everything always the day before it comes out. So this is actually, we're recording this with the news fresh on our minds.
Yes, today is Wednesday, November 6th.
Yes, today is Hangover Day. I think that's what we should call this from now on.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, this is going to be Hangover Day. It doesn't matter if you drink or not. You're just going to wake up and be like, oh my God.
You're going to get into a bunch of wacky scenarios trying to find your best friend
yeah,
so you can get him to his wedding.
Oh, that's so good, yeah.
And I am drinking a Budweiser Zero.
That's right, you are, yeah. Yes, it is today. Yes, we all woke up. You and I decompressed about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, we're just here, gonna have to figure it out, and I don't know, make it through. See what happens.
We talked about the election, and then we had a very emotional, tense conversation about our relationship.
Yeah.
So today's great.
Today's great. Just so you know, mommy and daddy are staying together.
We have our coming to Jesus meetings every once in a while.
Yes, yeah, we do. Is it Jesus is? Is that plural Jesus?
Comings to Jesus.
Comings to Jesus. Thank you.
As they say. Casey, we're not here to talk about any of that, fortunately.
Fortunately, yes.
Today, we're talking about a tree. This is a wild one.
Yes. What do you think? What are your thoughts here?
Keteleeria?
I don't know.
It might be named after Harvey Keitel.
It might be. Let's actually quickly do a little bit of research on that.
The wolf, huh?
It looks like, in fact, you are right.
Oh,
Yeah,
my second guess was Kettle One, the vodka.
It's named after Kettle One.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I can go with that. Yeah. Well, no. Actually, I have to let you down easy. It actually commemorates French nurseryman J.B. Keteleeria or Keteleeria.
Okay.
I don't know how to pronounce either one, but it's Keteleer. Yes, and he lived from 1813 to 1903. Now, this is a small group of trees, and depending on how you count them, there are either 3 or 5.
Interesting.
I don't know which is which.
It's like a pine needle thing.
It kind of is, yeah. That's funny. I like that.
Kate, by the way, before we go to break, Casey, did you know that our show is completely run on the fuel of the support of our listeners?
I did.
And that's Supercast.
We take that support, we pile it into an incinerator, we push it in there, and it boils water, and it keeps our wheels turning.
That's right. This is a steam-powered podcast. And if you go to arbitrarypod.supercast.com, you can become a member of this unstoppable machine. Arbortrary Pod, ARBORTRARY pod.supercast.com. Become a tree hugger, and you get ad-free listening, you get merch store discounts, you get our love and adoration, or become a member of the Cone Club.
It's really the place to be.
It's the coolest club you can be a part of.
Yeah.
And every month you will get cone stickers illustrated by independent artists sent to you in the mail in envelopes. So yeah, if you want to support the pod, again, that's arbitrarypod.supercast.com or arbitrarypod.com/merch to get yourself a piece of completely arbitrary merch. And with that, we will be right back after the break with Keteleeria. Welcome back to Completely Arbitrary. Today we are talking, bless you, Casey.
Excuse me.
Casey's on the tail end of a good old-fashioned cold.
I am, but you know what? Today, my throat doesn't hurt. Not even a little bit.
That's fantastic.
It's back to normal.
That's amazing because yesterday I saw you swallow and you grimaced like you had been stabbed in the chest.
It was really bad.
Yeah, that's
was awful.
That's a terrible feeling.
Yeah, so we're back.
I'm really glad to hear it, Casey.
Thank you.
And with that, we are talking about the Keteleeria today.
That's right.
A pine family distant cousin, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Casey, let's imagine that you and I'm prepared for this.
Okay. Hold on. I got this.
Well, let me take a stab in the dark and say...
Yeah, where are you at? What are you thinking?
Last week we were in China.
Yes.
Can we also be in China this week?
Yes, absolutely we can.
All right.
In fact, I almost insist.
Okay. Well, now I don't want to do it. Okay. Well, I'll say China. I'll say a different province. I'll say the Hunan province.
Okay. That sounds good. I think we can deal with that.
Okay.
Yeah, Hunan. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Let's ID this tree.
Let's ID this tree. So if we're there, then we get to talk about number 2, Keteleeria davidiana.
Oh, wow. I see.
I'm very excited
There
about
were
that.
3 doors.
There were 3 doors, and I wanted to be accurate because each of these doors has a different species that grows in it.
Exciting. Cool.
So there are
But all in China.
all in China, except for 2 of them are endemic to China.
Well, you know what they say, Casey?
Yes.
All roads lead to Rome, and all doors lead to China.
Everyone says that. Like, that is so common.
Classic phrase.
Exactly. I've actually seen it in books for years.
All dogs go to heaven. What else?
Et cetera. Yes, so there's only one, which is Keteleeria eveliniana.
Eveliniana.
Yeah, it grows down through Laos. And then all at once, our famous, loved conifer expert, Alois Farjan,
Oh, yeah.
he went through and did a drawing kind of bibliography of
Wow.
all of the pine family except for Pinus, because that's like huge. So he's like, okay, I'm just going to do all these other ones. And did drawings in kind of a monograph of all this whole family.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Are you familiar with what a monograph is?
Aren't we just so grateful for autistic people?
Yeah, I think so. This man is absolutely insane.
That's incredible.
So this is so the one that we're talking about, or the one that we could have talked about, that is not endemic to China, is Keteleeria eveliniana.
Okay.
The one that we are talking about, though, as you so kindly decided for us, is davidiana.
Davidiana. Okay.
Yes. So davidiana is probably the more common of the species, but they are so rare. I have seen one, and it was in a botanic garden in outside Berkeley, the UC Berkeley Botanic Garden,
California, IA.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that is exactly where these trees grow. All of them grow in this like beautiful, I don't know, subtropical wonderland. Like imagine the Siskiyous, but subtropical.
Okay.
In this particular space in China.
Wow.
In kind of the Southeast Asia area.
Okay.
So what do these trees look like? They are tall trees. So this is a tree that gets about 40 meters tall.
Meters. Okay.
40 meters. That's pretty huge. It's just about 110, 115 feet.
I've edited out the part where you said feet and you said it was a really tall tree. And I thought, oh, really?
Yeah, whoops. Sorry. Thanks for being a magician over there.
Yeah, no worries.
Well, so they're really huge and they look a lot like true firs.
True fir.
True firs in the
Okay.
genus Abies. In fact, they were initially included with the true firs when they first were discovered by kind of Western botanists.
Oh,
They said,
little pseudo ABs here.
exactly. So this could have been that. That would be a better name, I guess, than Keteleeria.
Yeah,
in
maybe.
my humble opinion.
Sure.
But they grow as a true fir would. And it has the same kind of dull, kind of grayish bark. It doesn't get really super intensely furrowed, but it kind of develops these almost irregular cracks that kind of become scale-like a little bit, but not quite scales that you look like you can just kind of pop them off. It's more like, oh, that kind of is cracked and now it looks like a scale.
Maybe like a little lizard skin.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Now, as they get larger, it becomes more intense, and they can get pretty decently sized. I have seen some things that say that they get upwards of 5, 6, 8 feet in diameter.
Whoa.
But they're really rare, so it's kind of like hard to say, yeah, here's one right there. There's a bunch. We can go out and measure all the Douglas fir and find the biggest one. This one's kind of rare, so it's kind of like you hear someone over there that says, oh, this one's 5 feet. That one over there says it's that big.
Yeah.
But they can get pretty decent sized. And I've seen a picture of one that is massive. I'll show you right now because I haven't actually put in a thing, but it is a huge tree that looks massive.
Casey turned his computer to exhibit. I mean, I don't even know how to. It looks like kind of like you know those fireworks that you get that are just like a tube, and you light it, and it just like a little like a fountain.
Yeah.
It looks a little fountain shaped.
Yeah, I think that's very fair.
But it's very tall.
Yeah, it's very tall. This is like a shrine in China, this tree.
Oh, cool.
And this is our species, Davidiana. And it is a single kind of monopodial tree. So that is just the fancy term to say it's got one stem.
Monopodial.
Lovely. Yes. It gets big, but it doesn't get like West Coast conifer big.
Sure. Well, what does, Casey?
Nothing. And there is nothing that gets that big.
But that's a decently sized tree. That's pretty big.
Yeah, it's a decently sized tree. Now, it gets huge, and it creates this kind of this multi-storied canopy, and its leaves are linear and flat, like what you'd expect for anything in the pine family. And when I say linear, it's a needle leaf. But the thing about it being a needle leaf that a lot of people don't expect is that needle leaves are often multiple different shapes, where some are square.
Sure, yeah.
If you like cut them in cross section, I mean, some are flattened, some are triangular, specifically spruces are triangular most of the time. And these are flattened, so they're kind of like, they look like very skinny, long, sharp, stiff paddles.
They're more leaf than needle, I'll say.
Yes, I think that's very fair to say. It looks more like a traditional leaf. It looks a lot like something I'd see in a podocarp, honestly.
Oh, sure, yeah.
A little bit flatter. So the thing with them is that these are quite aggressively sharp and stiff.
Oh.
So if you go and shake hands with them, the tree's going to be like, don't touch me.
Yeah.
I don't want you near me. I'd like you to go away.
But they're also so long, you could probably like you're petting a porcupine.
Yeah, right.
Reverse direction. Or
yes,
whatever.
if you go down with them, it's
yeah.
not bad. But if you go against the grain, like against it, you're going to be completely screwed. I know you're shaking your hands now, Alex. Like you got to rub them a little bit. So I would not want to like mess around with this tree. But they're very dark green. They are shiny on top, and they're usually about maybe about 3 or 4 inches long at most. But most of the time, I'd see them about 2.5 to 3, generally speaking.
Casey, you know the one thing we don't talk about a lot about on this show?
What?
Is male cones.
Oh, yes.
Can you give us a brief summary of what the male cones are like on this thing?
You know what? I sure can. And this is something that is quite fascinating.
Were you planning this?
Yes, I was, but not specifically now, I guess.
Oh, well, sorry.
No, it's okay. This is wonderful kind of cross-section.
Okay, great.
With the last tree that we covered, the golden larch.
Yeah.
The golden larch, and I believe the Cathia or the Nothosuga. Again, these are 4 really weird conifer species in the pine family that all grow in the same area. These are 4 different genera. Again, that's Keteleeria, Cathia, or Cathia. I'm sorry. It's just hard for me to say, and I don't know why.
How do you spell it?
Let me find the spelling real fast. Cathia is spelled Cathaya.
I would say Cathaya.
Cathaya. Yeah, that's great. That works. It's wonderful.
It's like a whore's name in Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah, that's fair. So Cathaya, that's great. I've always said Cathia.
Okay.
But I feel like that's wrong. It must be wrong. Either way. So Pseudolarix, Cathaya, Keteleeria, and Nothosuga.
Okay.
Those are the 4 weird, uncommon, strange genre that only grow in this region.
Wow.
And at least 3 of those have in common that their male cones pop out and they're held on umbels. Now, do you remember what an umbel is? We've talked about it a few times here or there. Let me jump in.
Well, okay, hold on. Umbel is not the same as an umbo.
Nope.
An umbel is a flower. It seems like a flower part.
It is. It's a flower arrangement.
Arrange. Oh yeah. Okay. Like a carrot or like a you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Oh, like a carrot flower.
Yeah.
Yes. Well done. I was like, no, Alex, it's nothing like a carrot. A carrot is in fact a root. But okay. So no, you're exactly right. It is. It is where all the parts of a flower create kind of a flat topped.
Yes.
Compound inflorescence where they all come from one spot.
Like an umbrella.
Exactly.
Yes,
precisely.
now I'm remembering my studies.
Yeah, so a carrot is the perfect example.
Cool.
Anything in the carrot family has that same exact pattern.
Umbel. So these pollen cones come out in an umbel.
Correct.
That's kind of interesting.
Exactly, and it's very rare with anything in the pine family. I think they're the only ones in the pine family that have that kind of compound fruiting structure.
Well, how about that?
Yeah, it's very interesting.
The evidence is building that these should not be in the pine family.
But the seed cone, everything is spirally arranged, all those sharp needles.
Okay.
I have actually a cone from this particular species, Keteleeria davidiana, and it looks like a Douglas fir cone.
Wow.
But it's like 3 times as long.
Really?
And its cone scales are very skinny where they attach to the main axis, that main rachis.
I see they share a mouse butt bract.
They do. They got this little thing, but I think that bract doesn't stay too long. Like when the cones get big and dried out, they're not quite as obvious.
Okay.
But you're seeing the right kind of thing there. They also have these same kind of big, flat, rounded scales. They're all spirally arranged going up that. So they look like a big kind of Douglas fir or spruce, but they grow upright.
They're kind of great.
You like these?
I really like them.
Yeah, I think they're really cool. When I initially found this one, I was like, that is sick. And I had to keep it, but I was so afraid that it was going to break itself apart because they get fairly fragile as they get bigger. So you remember last week our cone fell apart because the rachis broke apart.
Right,
and the scales attached to that section would fall with it.
Sure.
This will break off at the base, but it grows upright, and then as soon as hits the ground, it kind of just is a fragile thing that you feel like if you squeeze it too much, it'll just kind of disintegrate. So that is, I think it has these weird, again, connections with other kinds of species that don't make any sense.
Very delicate.
Yeah, it's like a mix between a true fir that stands upright but looks like a Douglas fir.
See, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, you dig that? You're just I like this.
I like these
tree.
cones. I also love a cone that grows upright because it looks like the tree is holding them.
Yeah, balancing all these little parts
in their
straight
palms.
Up. Yeah, that's very fair. I think it's true.
As opposed to just turds hanging off a butt.
Wow, that's really sweet. Yeah, look at all those hanging chads over there.
The other day I saw. I think it was a spruce tree, but the only part of it I saw was laden with cones.
Yeah.
And I just thought that looks so bad.
It looks like a dog that just has too long a fur.
It really. It looked awful.
Yeah.
It was not aesthetically pleasing.
Well, duly noted.
That's just how I felt.
I think that's fair. Your cones, as they say, are your own.
Thank you, Case. Well, those are sort of the big players here, huh?
It really is, yeah. And so it's a big, beautiful tree. It grows in a weird way, and it has these weird cones that grow upright. Again, it's most closely related, as we said, to the true firs in the genus Abies. So that makes sense that the cones are growing upright, right?
Sure, yeah.
Totally fits the whole narrative. So the other thing about these trees, because there's a few different species of them, they all kind of grow in different ways and have similar traits, but the cones are smaller on the other species, a little bit wider. The needles of one are just as pokey, but on another, they're very soft and kind of amiable. That's the Eveliniana. So they're all similar, but also like spruces or something. They have these traits that you're like, oh yeah, that's a Keteleeria. But then inside of the Keteleeria genre, their traits are variable. You're like, well, that's the soft-needled Keteleeria.
Totally, yeah.
It looks spiky, but it's not.
They all feel like the Royal Tenenbaums or something.
Wait,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like the children are all Tenenbaums, but they're all distinct.
Yes, okay, here you go. Yeah, they're all Tenenbaums, but they're unique Tenenbaums.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you there. So it's just this another weird species, which is why we're not really distinctly covering Keteleeria davidiana. It's kind of like, well, that's the one we're going to choose to talk about because, well, we got to choose something.
But more broadly, we're talking about the Keteleerias as like a, what do you call them? A group? Clade?
No, this is a genus.
Oh, this is a genus.
Yes, but
okay.
Now that you brought it up, Alex,
wow.
we might as well talk about the phylogeny and evolutionary history of Pinaceae is an updated in 2018.
Oh, Alex, you fool. How could you have done this?
you walk right into my trap. So this is, you can see it here. This is a beautiful description.
I can't look at that.
Sorry, Alex. I'll avert your eyes. This is all of the different clades of Pinaceae.
Okay, let me see it for real.
Okay, there you go.
Casey's showing me kind of like a flow chart.
Exactly. So this is what they call a cladogram.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's a good name for it.
Exactly. This looks like kind of a sports bracket that goes the opposite direction.
Totally.
Yeah, where it goes from the winners to the individual brackets at the base of the teams all together.
Sure. So, well, I guess the right side of a bracket, right?
Yes, yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So what this is showing is, first off, this is kind of where the very top, that bracket that doesn't kind of goes off into space, that is saying, well, that goes to all the rest of the conifers.
Okay.
So this is only the pine family.
Okay.
So it splits off, and on one side you have the pine family, and then the sister clade is the thing that goes off. So this is kind of like a tuning fork for those of you who are trying to use your imagination right now.
Sure.
You have a tuning fork. And that tuning fork branches, you can hold the base, and then it goes up left and right, and you have these two other bits, right? Mm-hmm. Those two other bits are sister clades to each other.
Okay.
Because
they're next to each other?
Yes, the two tines that come off of that one handle.
And they came from a group in common.
Exactly.
What's the word I'm looking for? They came from
it was their most recent common ancestor.
There you go.
So, Alex, what you see here is there are two main clades. And of course, a clade means branch. So this is the branch of their evolutionary space. Okay. One is the pinoid, which has the pines and their kind of crew. And the other one is the abiatoid, which is abiatoid. This is the abies kind of side of the family.
The firs.
Exactly. So this is where our Keteleeria is most closely related to the abies. They are sister clades to each other. So they're on two ends of one of those final tuning forks. And they are very closely related. You go up and over to another clade that has the pseudolarix, then the Nothosuga, that's that fake hemlock, which is very closely related to the actual hemlocks.
Wow.
Then on the far side of that, kind of all of these are more closely related to each other than they are to the deodar cedar. But they're more closely related to the deodar cedar than they are to larches, Douglas fir, spruces, Cathia, and the true pines. They are on that other side of that. They are on this other clade.
Okay.
So it's just kind of one of those things where you just kind of follow and see which things are like set right next to each other at the ends of those two or those tuning forks.
And physical proximity literally means they're more closely related.
Correct. That is a proxy for evolutionary proximity.
I'm having a fantastic time imagining you on a first date with your laptop showing this person.
Oh man,
this clade chart.
And she is just with wide eyes.
Yes,
like,
of course.
Keep going. I love looking at these things because it makes it just like visually lets me see how things are related.
It's good for context of your knowledge, right?
Yeah. It helps me like organize it or make it feel organized.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just like smashed in there in the middle. But one thing that I do like that I really wanted to like sit down and talk about and think about with this is, well, it's actually something we brought up last week. which is the Sichuan province, or this kind of southwestern, southeastern area of China, including Laos and a little bit of Tibet and a little bit of Myanmar, and going kind of up into Russia and some sections of Mongolia, kind of this whole kind of giant area of East Asia. Okay. Yeah. But in particular, this one section that we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like broadly East Asia. In particular, this one section that is really kind of the best example is Sichuan and the mountains in Sichuan province, China.
Great.
So mainly, I'm like, why is this the case? Why are there so many weird conifers that only grow there, where all the rest of these things in pine family they're across the world in the northern hemisphere?
I mean, not even just right there, but like, why don't they grow in other parts of China?
Yes, exactly. And so there's like, it's just such a curiosity,
Yeah.
right? And so I ended up doing a bunch of research and finding that this is, as we've talked about before, a space that is filled with relic species.
Relic species.
Yeah.
Is that just like ancient? When I say ancient species, is that relic?
It is, but it's specific to species that are found nowhere else. So that's endemic.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But it's also species that really haven't changed in millions of years.
Sure.
So it is a representation of a time that just doesn't exist anymore, and everything else around it has just moved on. And they are generally found in what we call refugia. And we've talked about this before when we were talking about the Siskiyous and neo-endemnicism. Do you remember that? Versus paleo-endemnicism? In fact, this is when we were talking with Michael Kaufman.
I knew that.
Backcountry Press, yes.
Brewer spruce.
Exactly. There you go. Go buy that book and learn about all the mushrooms.
Mushrooms of Cascadia.
Yes.
No.
Okay. This is great because that means I get to tell y'all again.
I wanted to. I wanted to impress myself.
Well, I'm sure, because we've talked about this before, it's going to come flooding back.
I'm sure it will.
So endecism means that it only grows in one spot. Endecism. So what this means is if you have a neo-endemic species.
Neo-endemic.
It is a new endemic.
Yep.
And it, say, grew into a place and then speciated, and now it is living there and it can't grow anywhere else because it's used to this one spot.
And kind of somewhat recently, maybe?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So it came into that spot and then speciated to kind of really be good at living there.
And then died off everywhere else.
Exactly. Or it's still lit. There's other species that are elsewhere, but this one came out and made some adjustments that make it a new species and adapted to this particular location.
That's neo-endecism.
Correct.
Okay.
A paleo-endemic plant is one that was growing everywhere, like all over the place, but then it's through climate change or some other changes around, it has found a refuge and it now only lives in one spot, but its range used to be way bigger.
The white bark pine? No.
No, in this case, the brewer spruce is a great example of that.
Oh, okay.
Because it used to grow all the way up to like Montana, and then slowly but surely it's shrunk its entire existence to this one particular area in this one particular mountain range.
What's that tree in New Zealand that grows in like a canyon, like a single canyon?
Oh, no, you're thinking the Wollemi pine in Australia.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, now we're even.
Now we are even. Everyone, the fight is over. The fight is square. We're all at peace now.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's an example of what would be a paleo endemic, where it used to be everywhere, and now it's only found in these very specific canyons.
Cool.
So in this case, down in Sichuan, all of these trees used to grow everywhere. In fact, you remember from last week, the golden larch grew up in northern Canada, all across North America.
Yeah.
This species used to do the same thing, and so did apparently about 442 other species of plants in 133 genera across this entire East Asia area.
Interesting.
That's how many relic species one study kind of looked into. There could be some more, but they chose these ones, and they kind of did a big review to say, okay, what are out there? And we're going to kind of count this and see what they're about.
Oh, that's what's currently there.
Yes, correct.
Oh, okay.
So these are species that meet that definition of kind of relic.
How many?
Relic 442.
Damn.
Yeah. Now,
wow.
if we go to Sichuan, And this is, now that was the entire East Asia kind of area.
Okay.
Now, if we put that right down into Sichuan, there are something like 88 unique conifers in 27 genre and 9 families.
Hey, this is the real conifer wonderland.
It really is.
That's amazing.
For sure. And this is...
what is that, a conifer mile or whatever?
Oh, the Miracle Mile.
Yeah. That has, what is the number on that?
I think it's 17 or 18, I think, conifers in one area. Yeah, but that's within a mile. This is a whole range.
Yeah, it's still cooler.
Yeah, I would be curious if they could do a Miracle Mile down there.
Hey, yeah.
See if there is this one kind of square mile section that has more than that. So the thing, though, is not all of those are relic. There's not 88 relic species, but of those 442, about 15% are conifers.
Okay.
And what's curious is how this all happened. So let me regale you a long history story here. So if we go way back in time, this area used to be more like a kind of Mediterranean climate.
Oh.
And it got really dry. Most of the forests disappeared.
Okay.
Then, over time, how long? I'm not exactly sure.
Millions?
Yeah, I would say yes. We're dealing in millions of years. It's any unit, let's just assume, is about 1 million years or so.
Got it.
Several units of time went by, and it started to get warmer, and it started to get more humid. And as that happened, trees moved in.
Okay.
And all of the conifers in this kind of northern section of the world were mostly in the Pinaceae family, but also quite a few in Taxaceae and Cupressaceae.
That's you and Cyprus, respectively.
You're so goddamn good.
Some days I'm just on, baby.
So this is like the trees that are growing here.
Okay.
But you'd also had the southern flora that kind of came up through Oceania, and that would be mostly the podocarps.
The more tropical-esque trees.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's another unique space that's kind of developing right now is there's plate tectonics and Pangea is ripping itself apart, and all these kind of other big long-form things are happening, and again, over these units of time. And you end up getting a mixture of subtropical and tropical plants coming north. And these northern species that reach almost the southern limits of their real comfortability, or at least where they can, eke out their own existence and things like this. And then you get this mixing of climates that are spread across elevation as these mountain ranges start to come up.
Okay.
So you have these two things in terms of north and south forests and these elevational differences. And that creates a gigantic amount of niches. Niches. So what's important about this is that you have every possible combination of climate, which is the big thing that drives extinctions and migrations and all these things. It's whatever the climate is, macro and micro. So because you have these macroclimates of tropical/subtropical moving north to become temperate to the point where it becomes like a straight temperate coniferous forest, then you also have mountain ranges throughout that entire zone. So you have the tropical mountain range and you have the temperate cold-ass mountain range.
Sure.
And everything in between with different faces and different valleys. And each valley has a certain amount of water. Some in the north have water that comes from the westerlies. Others get monsoonal rains that come from the east and the south. You end up getting this perfect combination of spaces where all these different tree species can come together and find their perfect spot. There's a place for everybody.
Interesting.
It's like breweries in Portland. Whatever you're into, you can go find it.
Sounds like a buffet or something.
Yes, yeah, it's a buffet, but each place it's more like a buffet of seats. Where no matter if you want to sit in a high seat or a low seat, a comfy seat, a firm seat, whatever you want, there's a seat out there for you. Just go right into the seat restaurant and sit your ass down.
You know what it really sounds like is the newscaster fight from Anchorman, where all the different channels show up.
It's like, what are you guys doing here? It's
This one is
like
the parking lot that they all fight in.
And you know what? They're all equally at home, and none of their hair gets messed up.
They all have their unique weapon type.
Yeah, exactly. What a good one. What a good one to bring up. So imagine that. And then the last thing that happens throughout all of this, so, we're going over time. There's mountains are coming up. There's little climate changes. But the important thing is that the climate, for all intents and purposes, doesn't change. And we know this because tree species get used to a certain climate, and they don't like changing that.
Sure.
So if the climate changes, they either move or they die.
Yeah.
Or they speciate and they adapt, but they're different than whatever was growing there before that was adapted to a different climate.
Right. They've got to change to survive.
Exactly.
Or get out.
Yeah. So in this case, they didn't need to change because over the long period of time, once this kind of like area got set, nothing changed.
Wow.
In Europe, in North America, glaciers came down and just like completely destroyed things and like required that tree species and all this flora move and kind of shape around. And like we used to have dawn redwoods growing up in the Arctic along with the golden larch and other species. Now those got all pushed away because of snow and glacier ice. Here, never happened. No glaciers came down and said, get out, I'm going to crush you.
It's just this perfect little protected zone.
Exactly.
Wow.
So it has like this like insane amount of like Goldilocks situations.
Totally.
And because they have that and all these gradients in terms of elevation and latitude, you end up getting the perfect mixture for everything to just be there and be fine forever.
Totally. That's amazing.
It's incredible. And we haven't even talked, Alex, about broadleaf trees. We haven't even talked about the herb species. We haven't talked about all the other weird things that are not specifically conifers growing in this area. And that is like, it kind of blows you away when you say, well, we're only talking about 15% of what's there. And so there's this interesting amount of variability that comes from the far tropical southern areas and the India kind of Tibetan tropical areas that intermix with the same flora that you'd expect in Russia and over here in the Pacific Northwest of North America. And the same kind of fauna at least used to be there, whether it is, now still. So it's like this wild, insane mixing ground of things that are kind of living on the margins, but because of that, they are unique.
Yeah.
Because nothing else lives there.
Like when you look at the map, now if I look at the map, I go, oh yeah, I see that. Like it is kind of centralized to a lot of different things.
Yeah.
A lot of different places.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting stuff, Case.
It's really interesting. And I think just to put a little point on it, or to kind of, if anyone's not able to visit Sichuan province, China, but you can visit someplace, the mountains of the Klamath and Siskiyous here in Oregon and Southern Oregon and Northern California.
The Russian wilderness.
Exactly. The Siskiyou wilderness, the Kalmiopsis wilderness, all these areas are really similar in that is our best, proxy.
Sure.
For what's going on there. It really pales in comparison, truly.
Yeah.
But that is a spot that has these same kind of endemic species. It did not get glaciated and have everything kind of get wiped out over time. They've been there, able to live for a really long time, and it's also this perfect mixture of the California floristic province plants come up, and the northwestern species come down.
Okay.
And then you have stuff that comes from inland from the kind of Great Basin area and the Rocky Mountains and the Sierra Nevada, mixing with stuff that grows on the coast that then come up and get into these mountain ranges or these little tiny valleys and coves and rivers. So it's another spot that has that same kind of refugia.
Well, Casey, we have to give this Keteleeria, can we call it King Keteleeria?
Yes, yeah, let's do that. I like that.
That sucks, but
King Keteleeria.
It's something.
Yeah, that's gonna be the queen.
I was making a Shakespeare.
Huh?
I was making a Shakespeare.
You made a Shakespeare?
King Keteleeria.
Oh,
King Lear.
Oh, Alex, look at you.
Casey, we have to give a rating to this tree.
Let's do it.
We must do so after a break. We'll be right back with Completely Arbortrary. Welcome back to Completely Arbortrary. Sorry.
Yeah, you're gonna need to bring that down.
Sorry. That was our discussion of the Keteleeria. Casey, it's time for our review, and here's how it works.
Okay.
We have to give some final thoughts on this tree and then give it a rating of 0 to 10 golden cones of honor. And as our resident expert, we'll begin with you.
All right, excellent. So I find this tree fascinating. I find all 3 to 5 of them fascinating.
Yeah.
The fact that they are so rare, like the golden larch, just makes me want to go find one. And because I'm pretty sure that they could be growing somewhere here in the Willamette Valley.
I guarantee there's a few here.
I would guarantee so. They grow in the mountains, particularly in this kind of semi-tropical zone.
Okay.
And I want to see this one in China that is like this amazing thing. We'll make sure to post
The one at the shrine?
a thing. Yeah, the shrine. Because it just looks like a monolith growing out of the top of this hill. Like, there's a reason that it's on a shrine, you know?
Totally.
I want to give this a high rating, but I just don't know it well enough. I have one cone. I love how their cones pop up. I love the form of their tree. So it's one of those things where you're like, ooh, I'm pretty sure I'm going to like Indian food. Then you try Indian food and you're like, yeah, I like Indian food. That's kind of how I feel about this.
Okay.
Where I'm just like, so I want to give it, I think I'm going to give it a 7.0.
Great.
Because I got a good feeling about this, but I can't technically tell you that I love this tree.
It's a good score with room for expansion.
Yes, exactly. 7.0 is what I give the Keteleeria.
All right.
Writ large.
Well, Casey, I'm a fan.
Okay.
Of this Harvey Keteleeria. I think it's interesting. All these like interesting components coming together in a tree you wouldn't expect. I really enjoy that.
Yeah. Okay.
The fir-like upright cones, but they also look like Douglas firs.
Yeah, I just looked up who Harvey Keitel is. So I'm like, I need to know who you're talking about.
The wolf from Pulp Fiction.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I just love like all these unique, like a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and it's like a good chef can kind of improvise with the ingredients they're given. It's like Chopped. So
this is the good chef tree.
Yeah.
This tree's like, yes, I can make something out of this.
Yeah, this is like chopped wood. You know what I'm saying?
Nice. That would be good.
So I'm kind of with you. You know, it's always hard to rate a tree that I have no experience with, which honestly is most trees.
So what I'm saying is the last 4 years have been really hard, Casey.
Torturous. So I'm going to give this, I think I'm with you with a 7.0.
Okay, there you go. That is consistency.
But I have arms wide open.
Yeah.
Much like Creed. I'm ready to receive this tree and love it. It's time for a fun game. How about that?
Hey, let's do it. Okay.
In this game, you will play Detective Clapp.
All right.
And I will be Officer Crowson.
All right, Officer Crowson.
And you have just come to a tree crime scene to see what's what and deduct the clues. This is Tree Detective.
From the dusty mesa, her looming shadow.
Detective.
Officer. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Although I really don't like seeing each other in these circumstances. Always seems so hard.
Me neither. Also, I didn't like the way you talked to my wife the last time you came over for dinner.
Well, next time she shouldn't insult me.
All right. Break it up, you two. I mean, us two. Well, here you are. You've arrived at the location. As you can see, it's a historic property. With a very large old oak tree.
Interesting. Yeah, it's a beautiful tree.
Now, the owner is concerned about these cracks.
Ah, they're cracks. I see. Yeah. Could you point those out?
Sure, here.
Uh-huh.
And there's another one here.
Okay.
That's probably on the other side, but it's a big tree.
Yeah.
Now, they're deep.
Yep.
They're vertical,
oh.
as you can see.
Yeah. That's a bad sign.
What do you make of it?
Well, if they're deep, this is where I start to get concerned.
Okay.
So, as I'm looking around here.
Oh, Merry Christmas, by the way.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Merry Christmas to you too. Thank you. I should have said something earlier.
It's a cold one, though, isn't it?
It is. It's pretty chilly.
Yeah.
Now, there are no leaves on this tree because it's an oak tree, and it's it's pretty cold out here.
Yeah.
Now, this is the thing. I think this tree needs to come down.
Oh my God.
I think this tree needs to get cut down.
Wow.
Now, here's why I say this. Now, I want you to step over here because it's actually a bit dangerous to be right over there.
Okay.
So here's the thing. There are deep cracks in this tree.
Yeah.
Now, if these were shallow cracks in the bark, say, didn't go into the wood.
But these are in the wood.
These
Oh, I
are
see
in
there.
the wood.
Okay.
If they didn't go into the wood, you can take this little knife, you can take this probe and go straight in.
Oh.
That means that the tree itself probably died.
Okay, so yeah, I see that those cracks are pretty deep.
Yeah, the deep cracks. Now, so during the wintertime, you can sometimes expect that there's going to be a lot of movement of the tree and windstorms, ice storms, snowstorms, things like that. You know, that's going to blow it around. Okay. And then you can expect some cracks maybe in the bark. You get a little bit of sap coming out. Those are superficial. Those Douglas fir, it happens to them all the time.
Okay.
So what happens here is that if the crack goes too far deep, that tells me that the tree likely, in fact, is either dead and is drying out. So the wood is cracking and checking.
Wow.
Or the tree has been pushed to the point, bent to the point where the wood is actually cracked. And then when the wood cracks, you know you got an issue.
That seems way worse.
That's way worse. Yeah. That is, generally speaking, the tree is imminently failing, which means it's actively, essentially falling right now. It should be taken out pretty quickly, which is why I had you walk over here, because I don't want to be in the fall zone if this thing comes down.
It's a fair assessment. Can I tell you what I'm sorry, but I had a first opinion, I guess.
What?
You're my second opinion.
This is ridiculous.
But I had another tree detective, come in yesterday. Now, they said that the tree is stable. And that they advised using wound dressing. I've never heard of that.
Oh, yeah.
On the cracks to prevent pests and
Tell
fungus.
you what, you got a charlatan on your hands.
Wow.
Wound dressing doesn't do nothing.
Really?
Not a thing.
Are you serious?
Absolutely. Here's the thing. You cut a branch off. You dress it with some wound dressing, snake oil.
Some boiled wine.
It doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
There's an equal chance that that tree will get decay in that area no matter what.
Really?
It doesn't do a damn thing.
Okay, this is like a tree thinning thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Selling you snake oil.
It's snake oil. It's exactly what it is. So people used to do it thinking, you get wound on your skin. You want to dress it so that it doesn't get infected. That's not how trees work.
Sure,
they don't grow
not.
new skin and kind of cover things over. They will grow from the side and compartmentalize over.
Sure.
But that wood that's exposed, it will get decay or it won't get decay based on the situation and what happens. As soon as you cut it, there are spores already on it.
Well, I feel a little duped, but I appreciate your honesty.
Hey, that's okay. You know what? And sounds like this other guy wasn't a certified arborist. Always hire an ISA certified arborist.
All right. Well, it's the day is young. You want to grab some coffee and then go hit the next crime scene?
Yeah. Let's go.
All right. Clip, clop, clip, clop.
Wait, are we on horses?
It's my car.
Okay.
Very
You were
old.
clip-clopping.
Yeah. That was us walking to the parking lot.
I forgot my shoes have horseshoes on
Yeah,
them.
I'm a fuck, what is it called? I'm a satyr. You just now noticed my goat legs?
I did. Why have I not noticed these before?
All right. Well, here we are at the next location here.
Okay, what do we got here, officer?
Well, if you look around, you can see we're in a little city park, a small one.
Yeah, it's beautiful, though. I like it here.
But it does have several big, beautiful elm trees. Now,
yeah.
there's one of those big elms. It's kind of started losing leaves,
Oh, yeah, I see that flagging up there.
and there's yellowing foliage. Yeah, that's what we have so far.
Yeah.
But I just got here with you, so I don't know what the evidence is. But
Yeah.
we can go take a look at it. if
Yeah,
you
let's
want.
get close here. So,
Click.
so here's the thing with elms. A lot of them are susceptible to Dutch elm disease.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Yeah, you remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing with Dutch elm disease,
Dutch elm disease.
Yeah.
DED.
dead.
Oh my God.
It kills the elms.
Is this a common joke in arborist circles?
Whenever I diagnose one of these poor trees, officer.
Yeah, that sucks.
So here's the thing. This is a very common disease, and it's actually spread by two ways. One, roots. So we have a couple different elm trees here, right? We got to keep in mind that portion. But it also is spread by a little tiny beetle. That little beetle gets in and it drills into the unions between two small twigs. On the back of that beetle is a fungus. That fungus gets into the tree.
It's like a black plague thing. It wasn't the rats, it was the flies.
Exactly. Fleas, you mean.
Fleas.
Yes, correct.
Yes, yeah.
So that's what happens. And then that fungus is like, it's like cholesterol in your veins, right? Clogs them up. And it makes it so that you can't move water and nutrients the way you normally did.
It's gruesome.
So that yellowing, that flagging is what it's called. And what happens is essentially that tree, the tree is dying from the outer spaces where it got infected, and the infection slowly moves down the big stems.
So the heart.
Exactly. So next year, the whole top of the tree or whole branch sections might be dead.
Okay.
And the year after, the whole tree could be dead.
Well, what should we do about this?
We should take this tree out immediately.
Oh.
Now,
Burn it?
we should burn it or chip it or get rid of the bark so that the wood underneath doesn't have the beetles or doesn't have a space for the beetles to continue to live. Now, here's the other thing. We have to cut the roots because elm trees will graft themselves together. And as you see, there's a few in this park here. Officer, are you looking?
Sorry.
Jeez.
I was just thinking about my next case.
All right, that's fair. So what happens here is if this tree is infected, then it's grafted to the roots of the tree next to it that isn't infected.
Oh.
So it'll continue to pass it from root to tree to root to tree.
Oh, the fungus does that?
Exactly. It'll keep going down into the roots, into the actual stem and the roots of the tree.
Oh, God.
So we're going to cut this tree down, and we're going to take a nice little edger, and we're going to go, and we're going to cut all the roots off far enough away to not destabilize the trees that are still alive, but we're going to help keep it from spreading through the roots.
All right. Well, you want to get some dinner or something?
Yeah, let's get out of here. How's your wife doing?
I've had it with you. All right. Well, I do have this teleportation advice so we don't have to walk to my car.
All right, let's do that.
All right. Zoom. All right. Here we are. Wow.
I thought we were getting dinner. Well, you duped me. We're looking at one more tree.
Well, we'll get it after. I just want to finish
right.
my workday, be able to relax.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Well, here we are.
What we got here? What's going on here, officer?
Oh, you hear that screaming?
I do hear that screaming.
Well, as you can see, we're in a backyard, suburbia.
Mm-hmm.
Or hell, as I call it.
All right. Take it easy here.
Of course, if you look around, you'll see all these neighbors.
I do.
They love ornamental trees.
Yeah, they're beautiful. You know, I can't lie.
And the screaming you heard earlier, it was the homeowner of this place, very distressed.
Yeah.
There's a cherry tree here that it's like their pride and joy. All right. They don't have any children and it just never worked out for them.
I see, yeah.
So they don't even have any pets. There's some mobility issues. This tree is all they have. But unfortunately, this spring, and we're in spring now, only has, there's like a few blossoms. They're very dull. But usually it's like popping off.
Yeah.
It's prized.
It is. It sounds like it looks beautiful.
I think it's award winning.
Interesting.
But yeah, this year just a couple of little blooms, and they look like shit. Huh. Feel free to take a closer look.
I think I'm going to take a closer look. Now, are these dead tips on
Double
the end
click
of it?
to take a closer look.
Enhance. So, do these are these all brownish, kind of blackish dead tips that I'm seeing on this tree?
Not dead, just like not as vibrant as they could be.
Well, I have no idea.
Well, let's take a closer look.
Let's take a closer look. Yeah, I want you to tell me what's going on here.
Well,
I want to see a little bit closer.
Let's take a look at the base of the tree.
Yeah, all right.
You see all this mulch? God, it's getting all over my shoes. They piled it up onto the sides of the base.
Yeah, I see what you're saying here. Well, this is actually the first time I've seen this symptom from this cause. Potentially.
Interesting.
All we can do here is put two things together and expect that the symptoms are coming from this or that source.
In English, Doc.
It's just diagnostics is what we're talking about here.
All right.
So it's a really good observation. I was too busy looking too closely.
Yeah.
And you found something that was right in front of us this whole time.
It's kind of the way we worked well together.
That's exactly right, officer. What you're talking about here is a mulch volcano. And that's the term we like to use.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so what this means is that the mulch piled up on the side of the trunk has done two things. One, it's reduced the amount of oxygen that's getting down into the roots.
Oh, wow.
Number two, it's allowing more of an opportunity for fungal pathogens to get on and in through the bark or any cracks in the bark of that tree.
She did say that she waters it every day.
Well, it sounds like this tree is a victim of love.
Oh, wow.
Too much love can be bad for a tree.
You see, love is an acronym. L stands for
L stands. That'd be
the
great.
way you look at me.
Yeah, don't look at me, says the tree.
O stands for overwatering.
V stands for volcano of mulch.
There you go.
And E stands for everybody chill out.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. You have too much mulch, you reduce the amount of oxygen that's getting down to the ground.
Okay.
Sometimes you can also reduce the amount of nitrogen because it uses it all up, all the fungus, all the microbes inside that mulch. Leaves less available. You give too much water, you saturate the roots and you reduce the amount of oxygen even further because there's just too much water filling up the pore spaces in the soil. Usually they would be filled with air, oxygen,
like the
carbon
gas
dioxide.
exchange chambers.
Exactly.
Are just like, we can't even exchange gas because there's too much liquid.
Exactly. The liquid has pushed out the gas.
Oh my God.
Yes, that's how trees and plants of any kind get drowned.
It's like a drowning, yeah.
Exactly. It's exactly what it is.
Wow.
So that's what happens when you overwater these trees. You have too much mulch, then too much water. That's a breeding ground for fungus and anaerobic conditions.
Sure.
That's what's most important here.
Well, what should we tell this homeowner to do?
Stop watering this tree. Give it a little bit less water. You want to give it a couple gallons during the harshest times of our summer here, which we have a summer drought.
Sure.
But in other places where you have a monsoonal kind of thing, where you just get a normal amount of rain every month, you don't need water it almost at all.
Once a month?
Once a month, maybe. Yeah, and take that mulch, spread it out. You don't want it to be any more than 6 inches thick around the entire base of the tree, but not up onto the stem. Let some oxygen get into it. Let the bark be free of debris around it.
Well, listen, Detective Clapp.
Well, Officer Crowson,
It's been a long day. We've solved some tree crimes, and
I feel good about that.
I can officially call you a tree detective.
From the dusty mesa, a looming shadow.
That was Tree Detective. We hope you enjoyed it. Casey,
Alex,
time for our completely arbitrary AMA.
that was fun.
That was fun.
I like doing that, but sometimes I get really nervous.
Well, I know you want to do a good job.
I'm like, is this the right answer?
Casey, today we have a question from Dean. I chose this because as we were talking about that nitrogen and the oxygen and stuff, it got me thinking about this particular question that I saw come in from Dean. The other day, says Dean, I felt really perplexed when potting up some leguminous species.
Interesting.
All right, Tolkien. Okay, I know they have a little round root nodules that are like bacteria communes. And apparently via these, nitrogen is, quote, fixed into the ground. But I'm really perplexed at how legumes take nitrogen from the air and somehow get it into the roots. Casey, I agree with Dean. They say, it sounds magical to me.
Yeah.
Because when you say, to make more room for oxygen, I'm like, what the fuck? How does that even, how does that translate? How does a root
Great question.
breathe?
So there is air in the soil.
Well, what do you mean by that?
I'm so happy you asked. So when you're looking at soil, there's a lot of different things that you're considering. There are certain things that live there. There's also organic matter, which is like bits of living things that are in some process of decay.
Okay.
And then there are minerals.
Like dead leaves, kind of.
That's the organic matter.
Yeah.
And then minerals is like the miniature pulverized rock.
Sure. And what's the brown stuff, though? You know,
That's all of it all together.
okay.
So amongst all of those parts, there is space. And this is like, when we look at it, we see, okay, we're walking on soil, we're walking on a path, we're walking on that.
But if you zoomed in, if you Honey, I Shrunk the Kids me,
Exactly.
I'm going to be like, oh, there's a nice little hollow here.
Yeah.
It could be like 3 millimeters of space between two chunks of rock.
Yes, precisely. Yeah,
Okay.
like the tiniest little micro pores and macro pores in between all these things.
That's what you mean when you say there's air in the soil.
Yes.
Not like, okay.
There are pores in the soil.
Sure, where air exists.
Exactly. And there's usually water and air in there in those pores. And there has to be, because roots will perform respiration. And respiration is the same thing that you and I are doing all the time, all animals. It's breathing in oxygen, using that in the opposite of photosynthesis to create and burn, or to create energy by burning sugars and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So what happens in the soil is you have air pockets that fill with air. And I'm not saying oxygen or carbon dioxide, it's air. It's generally what we're breathing right now.
Sure, the combination.
Exactly. Now, 80% of our atmosphere is nitrogen. So there is conceivably 80% by volume nitrogen in these same little soil pockets, these little pores.
Okay.
So that is getting taken in through the roots into these root nodules that are filled with this bacterium. There are the colonies of bacteria that live inside these root nodules that essentially get access to the air.
How?
It just comes through the plant. Either they're exposed to it in the nodule, or there's pores, just like in leaves, that let in air. So same thing as in roots. There's always just a little bit of pore space that lets in molecules of air at that scale.
Now, I know you know what's going on down there, but you have to admit, that is weird, right?
It is, yeah.
It is like, it makes no sense how that would happen.
Well, here is why I think it is. It makes a little bit more sense if you put it into a larger context,
Okay.
where there are soil organisms that we talked about earlier that do this already. There are soil bacteria that just live there that do nitrogen work. That's what they do. They take in nitrogen and they use that as some kind of fuel, or they fix it and add it to other stuff. They have the ability to use that material.
Okay.
Because nitrogen is usually dinitrogen. It's two nitrogen molecules that are connected to each other. So just like oxygen is O2, N2 is the same thing. They're super reactive, but they are so reactive that they just find each other and like, meow, and they become two molecules put next to each other.
Okay.
And that's how they live their life. So there's always these kind of two molecules going around, but because they are connected to each other, they are not able to react with other things around them. So all these different bacteria and different microbes, they have learned to rip those apart and put them to different things.
Wow.
So what happened is, for leguminous plants, they entered into a symbiotic relationship that allowed these tiny little bacteria to live in a special compartment inside of their roots, and they're a little bit safer. They get a little bit of sugars, and they kind of have this cush living situation, but they still
Wow.
perform the same thing they did, the same thing that others do outside of roots, which is this small amount of nitrogen kind of fixation, just from taking it from the air that is intermixed within all these pores inside of the soil.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
I think so. It reminds
Okay.
me a bit of like the early days of the chloroplast.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
leaf, you know.
Yes. Endosymbiosis.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Weird.
So it's on that
it's
level.
like, I mean, it's like gut bacteria. It's like kind of the same thing.
Exactly. It's the same exact thing.
Oh, well, good for them.
Yeah. So it's a very fascinating thing. There's lots of good research on that. It's one of the most important things in like agroforestry, for example.
That's amazing.
Yeah. There you go.
And a great question, Dean. And if you have a question for us, you want to support the podcast with a monthly or annual support fee and get lots of fun things in return, become a Treemium member at arbitrarypod.supercast.com. That's ARBORTRARY pod.supercast.com. And like we said, go pick yourself up a piece of tree merch over on our website, arbitrarypod.com/merch. And that's the news.
We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Completely Arbitrary. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Completely Arbitrary is produced by Alex Crowson and Casey Clapp. Our artwork is by Jillian Barthold, and our music is by Aves and the Mini Vandals. If you want to support this podcast and become a Treemium member, head over to arbitrarypod.supercast.com. Thanks for listening.